and welcome to P2E World's special transmission on the developing situation between India and Pakistan. And we're here, of course, taking a look at the latest developments. We've seen that the DGSPR, along with the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Pakistan, have held a press conference earlier today detailing again Indian aggression towards Pakistan, which included drone strikes, and 29 drones have been intercepted and shot down by Pakistan, all of them that had entered Pakistani airspace. And this is, of course, extremely integral, as is something that has happened inside the sovereign territory of Pakistan and is, of course, an act of war and aggression, which both the DGSPR and the Deputy Prime Minister have clarified will be met with a befitting response. And this is, of course, something that Pakistan has been reiterating since the start, calling for peace and preferring peace, but making it very, very clear that if there is any misadventure towards Pakistan, that it will be responding with full force. And the DGSPR has also clarified in the press conference that it will be a very loud and clear response. And this is something, of course, that Pakistan reserves the right to do so under the Article 51 of the UN Charter as well. We've seen things, of course, escalate after the Pahalgam attack on the 22nd of April, and without any evidence and with baseless accusations and allegations towards Pakistan. We've seen that breaking all international norms and traditions, and in complete violation, we have seen India making a series of measures against Pakistan. Earlier, of course, we have seen that Pakistan responded with downing 5 Indian jets, including Rafales, that has been confirmed by the French company as well. And we saw then that today 29 drones have been intercepted and shot down by Pakistan as well. So India's misadventure, of course, are being met with a full response. And DGSPR has made it very, very clear that Pakistan reserves the right to respond at a time and manner of its own choosing. And this is, of course, extremely integral with us to understand, and particularly with the international community, in terms of what has happened after the Pahalgam attack and how this whole propaganda is being set up without any evidence towards Pakistan. And then, of course, an attack on its sovereignty is something that has to be met with a befitting response. This is, of course, something that we have seen different international representatives and community members calling out for de-escalation and also expressing their concern, including the US President Donald Trump, who has termed it shameful what India has done. And this is, of course, really, really important in terms of the way that Pakistan is exercising full responsibility and restraint, but at the same time has made it extremely clear that there will be a befitting response that will be met, and this is not something that will be allowed to continue. And that, of course, is something that currently is developing. And so we're going to be taking a look at particularly these drones in Pakistan and what can be expected and what will be Pakistan's response in the future. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst pitafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by Air Commodore Retired Mr. Khalid Chishti, who's going to be joining us and expressing his own views in the show as well. But Faisal, let me start with you with what has happened. We've seen that first, of course, on the night of the 6th and 7th of May, we saw that Pakistan, of course, responded with downing 5 Indian jets and a drone as well. And then earlier today and in the night of the 7th and 8th, we saw another Indian aggression that has entered Pakistan in the form of drones. All of them, the 29 drones that have been reported by the DGSPR, have again been intercepted and downed. And while Pakistan, of course, is responding in a befitting manner and completely eliminating any threat towards Pakistan, we, of course, also have the right under the Article 51 to respond with full force, and what the DGSPR has also clarified on a number of occasions. But I want your take on what has happened earlier today and the kind of activities that we've seen happening, and what essentially will be a proportionate response from Pakistan.
Yeah, but before I say that, of course, there is an intelligence report which is coming to me, and I just wanted to share it with the viewers, and that is that India has planned to overnight tonight, they will be conducting a raid of Sikh and Hindu sites, religious sites within Indian side. That could be in Jammu or that could be in Punjab, and what they want to do is that after conducting false flag on these religious sites, they want to bring the fragments of Pakistani missiles that they have recovered from other locations where Pakistan has hit them previously, and they want to bring all of these fragments and debris of them missiles, and they want to portray it as if Pakistan is behind this attack and Pakistan has conducted this raid on religious sites that are very dear to Sikhs, that are very dear to Hindu brethren. And this is going to be the modus operandi tonight of India. If anything related to this kind of story happens, you know what the plan was and how they are going to execute. Now coming towards today's situation, they sent in the drones, and the drones were of course not loaded ones. These drones, they are Israeli drones, Heron they called, and what happens is that these drones they attract the ground forces to attack them, and the air defense systems, what they do is that normally this drone, when it attracts a missile, it actually gives the pinpoint location of that air defense site and sends it back to the control room. And this is how the air defense sites of Pakistan could have been, of course, busted. And this application of India of these unmanned and kamikaze drones was because of two reasons. Number one, they just wanted to have the pinpoint locations of Pakistan's air defense systems, and number two, they are too scared to send the their jets, because they know that as soon as they will dare try to enter in, of course they will be busted there and then. If not by HQ9, then of course PL-15 is always waiting for them. And that is why these were the reasons that they actually came up with this idea, that they just wanted to engage Pakistan today. Overall situation is that Pakistan still has the right and has the right to respond to whatever the attacks which are being conducted by one after another by the Indian side. And to me, I think overnight, if Pakistan does do some attacks, them attacks would entirely be on the military installations and air force installations of India.
And Faisal, what you earlier were referring to in terms of an additional false propaganda that is going to be put forward towards Pakistan, we've seen a build up to where we stand today. International partners and international media really calling out on what has happened and calling for evidence in terms of what allegations have been coming in from India as well. Do you think that this propaganda is going to work with the kind of strategy that you're pointing out?
No, not at all. It won't work at all. Reason being, when we talk about Indian media is being labeled as a liar media. And I mean, earlier we've been watching that they are showing as if they have busted one of Pakistan's F-16s, and they are saying that they have done it in Bahawalpur. How did they do it? And how did they manage to do it? That is another story which they will, cook up another story, and of course start saying that they have somehow avenged the 5 planes, 5 fighter jets they lost other day, and they have obviously come up with this result that they have, by sitting at home, they have hit one of the Pakistan's F-16s. Well, Pakistan didn't use F-16s that day at all, and so far Pakistan didn't need to use F-16s. Reason being, Pakistan is doing so fine with PL-15s, of course along with the J-10Cs and JF Thunders, and Pakistan is busting them like they are birds that has no defense at all. And Rafales, 3 of the Rafales, MiG-29 and then Su-30, all of them, they got busted so badly that after that they did not dare come in the airborne. And this is the excellence of Pakistan's Air Force, that they hit them where they really were hurt, and after that they didn't even dare sending in their fighter jets. Rather, they simply sent in unmanned and unarmed drones towards Pakistan, just for 2 reasons which I have told you earlier.
Right, and Farrukh, I want your take on this as well. Currently, of course, with the way that we have seen that the drones have entered Pakistan and, of course, have been intercepted and shot down. But this, again, is a serious violation and an act of war towards Pakistan. And I want your take on what sort of a response does that actually entail. And then, of course, with reference to what Faisal was earlier referring to, building up this whole narrative and and doing this false flag operation within their own territory, will this whole scenario play out the way that India would want to, or in the ways that the world is actually watching what is going on right now, how India has been the aggressor?
Right, Sana, thank you very much for the question. I think that, but let me remind you of what I've been saying since day one. India has been actually saying that let us just do something and then we will say everything is hunky dory. You can retaliate and then things will be okay. I kept on telling you that there is too much slippage in whatever is going on, and you won't be able to contain the cycle of escalation. The cycle of, violence has started. India started it, and it keeps on, continues to actually escalate. So it can always lead to full-blown war, and this is the problem. Indian websites have already started referring to whatever is happening as India-Pakistan war, right? Now, the reason why they launched this attack, the first attack, is Pahalgam, or they keep on claiming it is Pahalgam. And we kept on asking for evidence, or at least them to show something to somebody, at least to the world. So far, their tally and their professionalism is such that all, alleged assailants are scot-free, 4 or 5, whatever their number was. And then they asked NIA, India's National Investigative Agency, to actually probe that, right? After they have struck in Pakistan, they say 9 places. After that, the NIA puts out a notice to people to bring forward evidence. That means you did not have any evidence at all. Your own government, because NIA was tasked to actually find it out. So what does that mean? India's all this muscular posturing is going to backfire. India keeps on actually trying to escalate further, and the biggest problem is all of this is happening only to win the war of optics in front of Indian people. Unfortunately, when it comes to the international media and international partners, they have already shown that India's defense or use of the equipment only brings them shame. Number one, they brought in Rafale. Rafale were downed. International media kept on reporting it. Let me also thank the conscientious people in France who actually came forward and confirmed that Rafales were downed, right? And while they were downed, at that time too, you can also see that the Americans and Western media, especially Indian embeds in the international media, try to actually claim that Indian Rafales were downed by Chinese weapons, right? Why China? Of course, Rafale are French, they are not Indian, they are not Indian made. But why do it? Bring in China to actually frame it so that India is trying to counter the aggression of China, and Pakistan is merely in the way, like those kids who were killed, right? Only, something, the collateral damage, nothing else. Now, interestingly, while Rafale and Dassault's, stocks keep on tumbling, PL15, the company that makes it, their stocks have risen. So India already is doing this kamikaze attack on their own partners who supply weapons. Now today, they sent in, drones by Israel. And by the way, do you think that they are going to be charged that 29, drones were downed in Pakistan? My only thing is, I have been writing repeatedly about India. As late as April 5th, I wrote an article called Red Alert. This is there, right? And this article talks about India, its designs, and lack of mental capacity to restrain or do something sophisticated. So their propaganda might be for their own people, but the problem is you cannot manipulate propaganda or optics to such a level that you fool all the people all the time. So India is going to lose in coming days, and that is sad because in the end, of course, war has its toll, and both these countries are nuclear. I hope that somebody actually brings some sanity to India. But fact is that Pakistan did not start this war. India's case against Pakistan in Pahalgam is not built. They always, even today when they were talking to the press, they were talking about Mumbai and past concerns. Let us also talk about 1947 then. Let us also talk about 1971 then, right? But the fact is, we have to talk about what is happening today. And today, India keeps on, there are multiple narratives. On one side, they actually came up with the operations title, right? They called it Operation Sindoor. Why? You know, they have this misogynistic, nationalistic worldview, right? And the message was clear. But then they realized that it can send negative message, right? They already are harassing their own minorities at this moment. So what did they do? They asked their army to actually present women, Muslim women actually to present the case to the press, right? Similarly, they actually spun the whole story and they said Sindoor was actually to, you know, in protection of women who lost their Sindoor in that operation, right? Where everybody knows what India is. The hate is unfiltered 24/7 on television. Neither Faisal nor I nor you will ever say that we hate Indians. Every Indian anchor repeatedly saying that all Pakistanis are terrorists and we hate all Pakistanis, and then they celebrate even if our children die, right? If you keep on manipulating in that way, it's sad. It is always going to backfire. World is not stupid, as you pointed out. But sadly, they are actually making their poor nation poorer, and they are dreaming this scenario that somehow Pakistan economically collapses. That is not going to happen. The world has, we have the world's support, and you will keep on seeing in coming days, Pakistan is going to stay solvent, but India's own businesses will suffer losses because of their belligerence.
Right, but at the moment, like you said, with reference to these weapons and with reference to the French company as well, it seems that that is not something that they're really caring about at the moment or really factoring in the current decision making. In the current scenario where things are escalating, will that count for the BJP government to take decisions?
Sana, every action, every pushback actually creates a feedback loop, and that educates their future, right?
Sure.
A future decision. First, they sent, what was his name? No, Abhinandan, right? We got him. We sent him back. After that, they did not dare to send their jets in Pakistani airspace, right? And then, when they actually had them on their side of the line, but they sent in their projectiles, we then struck back and brought their planes down. So now they are actually resorting to what? They are resorting to drones, right?
And fake news.
Of course, nobody buys their fake news. I mean, honestly, the kind of pressure, ungodly pressure they kept on actually putting on local and international media just to blot out this Rafael Downing story was astounding. And yet, hats off to everybody who actually fought back and made sure that this story actually breaks and reaches as many people as possible. Now they keep on actually coming up with friction. They just want, one of the purpose of these drones was also to provoke Pakistan to send its plane in their space so that they can also down it. And then they say, look, we have actually, neutralized the threat, or the score is equal. I mean, this is not sport. This is not, optics only. People die. You killed people, civilians in Pakistan. When is this madness going to end? I kept on telling people all over the world, this is what is going to happen. Now it is happening.
Absolutely. Faisal, your take on this too, because now that we are in this current situation, of course, Pakistan made it very, very clear that it preferred peace. Of course, it said that it has acted with responsibility, with restraint, and has put forward the facts in front of international platforms, media, and our partners. But it has also made it very, very clear that in case of any act of aggression, it will be responding in a befitting manner. And we've seen the DGSP again today clarify that. But in terms of what we've seen happen already with the way that the missile strikes were targeted and with the way that these drones have entered the Pakistani airspace, what sort of expectation do we now have with the current situation evolving and Pakistan's response in particular?
Yeah, obviously, Sana, when we talk about whether Pakistan is going to retaliate or not, yes, Pakistan will retaliate, but as DGISPR rightly pointed out, that we will do it with our choosing of time, our choosing of place, where we do it, and yes, Pakistan has the right to do it and will do it. When it comes to, India, our enemy is, we shouldn't be forgetting that they follow the ideology of Chanakya, and that ideology is that you should be speaking lie so much that eventually it can replace the truth. And what is happening is, like earlier, couple of hours ago, there was this news on the Indian channels that Pakistan has attacked with its drones over Jammu. Pakistan's DGISPR and then Pakistani channels, they started reporting. We have obviously confirmed it from our sources, from the security forces as well. There is no such attack going on, and if it is something that is going on, of course it must be something India itself is doing it, as they have been doing it in past as well. Pahalgam was the same, Uri was the same, Pulwama was the same, and this false flag attacks, it's one of their strategy which they have successfully mastered it. And how do they endorse it? With help of their nincompoop media. And earlier they were saying that Pakistan has attacked, and now what they are saying, they are saying to their own people that India is retaliating and India is attacking Lahore.
Right.
And at the moment on Indian channels they are running that Lahore is under attack by Indian side.
Absolutely, that is false news, and we of course
it's absolutely fake news.
Absolutely, of course, expect that the international community is of course watching and understanding what's really going on. Let us welcome in the transmission Air Commodore retired Mr. Khalid Chishti as well, and get his perspective on board. Thank you very much, Khalid, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. And I want your take in terms of particularly when we talk about what has happened in terms of drones entering Pakistani airspace, of course being intercepted and shot down, as the DGISPR has also clarified in a press. But I want your perspective in helping us understand what really happened or what really went into actually intercepting and shooting these drones down.
You see, let me take a minute or so to flashback into the reason, the causes why a side should switch or obviously choose the option to go into firing drones. To my knowledge of military strategy or military history, the drones have been used in support of the air power, culminating into a joint kind of operation when the air power is supplemented by the drones. What the Indian Air Force faced in a couple of days, and especially the last night, obviously lost 5 aircraft. It was state-of-the-art aircraft, 4.5 generation. It was a dream aircraft for Indian Prime Minister. He wanted to have this aircraft, and even then they lost 3 of them, not 1, 2. They lost another 2 aircraft. Total of 5. So this was a huge embarrassment, not only for the Air Force leadership, but the Indian Prime Minister also, who had invested so much personally and approved that almost 9 to 10 billion for this aircraft. So when a service shows this kind of performance, obviously the leadership must have decided why lose more aircraft. So they resorted to this. Probably not the best of the option. I think this is not the character or the courage, obviously, depicted of any force. It is a desperation, and almost as a result of maybe the frustration that they have. That is why they resorted to something targeting inside the civilian populations, even if the military installations are there. Obviously, there have been so many losses all around in the form of civilians also. So this look at the mindset. That means you already accepted the defeative mindset. You have already given half the battle, especially to the Air Force last night. when you thought, if your Air Force is unable to support, then is that the drones would make you win? Drones, if the drones were to bring in the victory or to take the revenge, probably even the African countries and the superpowers should have hundreds and thousands of drones and nothing else. Why spend billions of dollars on the military jet fighters and the other weapons in the other services? So this was more of a frustration, and they've come out of, they wanted to show their people that we have not lost the resolve, as actually there has been a lot of pressure on the Indian government and especially the Air Force chief, that is this the performance? Is this the performance that this country spends about $75 billion every year on them? And he was already in the mindset, Indian Air Force chief was already in the mindset when he said in February this year, 2025, when he said that I need more aircraft to stay relevant and to create and deter my enemy. So obviously he's failed in both. He's not relevant anymore. He's not been able to deter Pakistan Air Force. So he's failed in his mission, basically. What he said, what the standard he set for himself, he has not been able to achieve either of the two. And he goes on in that public seminar saying in February 2025, he said, had I been given more aircraft, that means he's trying to complain to the government that in 2000, almost 16, they placed the order for 40 Tejas aircraft, which is the so-called, they wanted the Indian version, indigenously develop a fighter jet, which was conceived first in 1985. This be exactly 40 years. It was 10 years before JF-17 Thunder was conceived. So we are now operating 200 jets, JF-17 Thunders in the Air Force, and the India has only 2 squadrons, and that too way towards the Bangladesh border. They've not put into action because they don't rely them to be combat-ready aircraft yet. I'm trying to share the background, what has brought the leadership of India in general and the Indian Air Force in particular to this state where they think that we can only choose the option of firing drones. Had there been a strength in the character, power to retaliate and show resilience, they would have come back in the air and tried to sort out the score that they lost. So I think it's a matter of not a pride for them. I think it's a huge country. If the wars were to be won only by the drone, the world will be a drone market and not the jet market or the missile market or air-to-air beyond visual range missile market. So if you have to hide those 1,000 aeroplanes into the shed and the pens, what are you good for? That's my point.
Absolutely, Khalid Saab, and validly put forward as well. But I also want your take in terms of when we talk about the fact that these drones did in fact enter into Pakistani airspace, and whether or not that qualifies as an act of war against Pakistan. And if it does so, we've seen the DGSPR making it very, very clear that Pakistan reserves the right to respond and will be responding with full force as well at a time and manner of their own choosing. But when we talk about what has happened, particularly on the night of the 6th and 7th May, and then on the night of the 7th and 8th, and earlier today, what is the proportionate response from Pakistan?
You see, they never crossed the border, fine. But even more credit goes to the Pakistani pilots. If they never chose to cross the border, they stayed inside. A highly commendable job by Pakistani pilots by shooting them down well inside the territory using beyond visual range missile. Let me put another short comparison. When the 80 aircraft which the Indian Air Force brought in to combat, they were also actually looking not only for standoff weapon shooting inside Pakistan, they were also looking for target of opportunity, that any way the Pakistan Air Force jets will come up to contest, and they were looking for a fleeting opportunity that they might shoot 1 or 2 and start celebrating that we've done the damage. I think as a fighter pilot, let me tell you, I have met these fighter pilots a couple of weeks back in person, spent the whole day for making my documentary on them. These fighter pilots, obviously, we must let me give them as much credit as for shooting, and the same credit I should give them by securing their own position and landing back safely, and all of them. Indians had as good and as effective almost 400 air-to-air missiles loitering in that area with almost 80 aircraft that they had. So multiply that into 4 or 5 missiles every aircraft carrying, so it comes out to be 400 plus. So if those many missiles not a single missile could connect to Pakistani aircraft, alhamdulillah, what is the professionalism? What professionalism are we talking about? Now they resorted to the surface, obviously the drones. It's an Israeli drone basically. It goes up as high as about 40,000 feet. It has about 1,000 kilograms of payload, the weapon that it carries. It has special facilities, somewhat stealthy. It has electronic suppression device or equipment installed in which it suppresses the air defense sensors which try to pick it up, and even sometimes can gather the data which frequency are they operating. So it could be a smart move on our part that Pakistan Air Defense was not giving out their own frequencies, because the moment you transmit and try to shoot them down, it absorbs and observes and passes on that frequency, obviously backhand at the launch pad. So obviously another counter can come. So it is yet to be unfolded because the technical details are not available yet. So I can comment only on the performance and the reasons behind it.
Right. Thank you so much, Khalid Chishti, for joining us and being a part of our transmission today. It was a pleasure having you and for the detailed understanding of what is really going on. And Farrukh, this is important because while there's a lot of false propaganda and false news going on, there is, of course, a lot of strategy and tact that also takes place in response to whatever has happened. And as Khalid was pointing towards in terms of what the air defense chose not to do is important as well, while, of course, it's being taken differently by Indian media.
Right, absolutely. I think that there is a calibrated response, and it is defensive, not offensive. Of course, Pakistan is entitled to launch a counter-attack also, or at the time of its own choosing. But so far, what we have seen is it was proportionate, and it was regarding only the defensive measures, right? Of course, those planes that have come, we have shot them down. And that was a message that even if you are actually flying in a Rath, magical Rath, even then we can actually down you. But there are other aspects, Sara. For example, this whole propaganda that he referred to also, that these religious sites might be attacked and all that. First of all, let me say it as loudly as possible. Sikh brothers and Batadri, or people, are our brothers and sisters. This place, this country is their Mecca. We will do nothing to harm their sacred places or their lives, right? This is a given. Everybody knows it, and that's why India keeps on actually bringing up this bogey, or somehow Pakistan perhaps actually attacking Sikh population or their religious places. But again, I can't say what happened in the early 50 years, 60 years of Pakistan, but I know one thing for sure, that in past 25, 30 years, since I've been actually working and functioning, we have very rigorously tried to ensure that any religious site does not actually get harmed, right? And that is a policy because we have learned from our mistakes. Compare it with who Narendra Modi is, with what BJP is. Do you remember what was the reason why BJP became popular? It was demolition of Babri Mosque, right? They actually built everything based on that, killing their own people and also using or attacking religious sites of Muslims, right? Now, after that we saw what happened in Gujarat, and then kept on happening later on as well. Now when they attack mosques in Pakistan, it is seen by all Muslims around the world. And by the way, there's a name for anybody that actually does that. If you keep on attacking religious sites, and now it is Pakistan, tomorrow it can be an Arab country, it can be any country in the world, usually that is a characteristic that is associated with Antichrist, right? So the people call them Dajjal. So if, I'm sure that there are too many Islamists all over the world who will listen to it, and their ears will stand up, right? We don't want to go there. But Pakistan will never attack religious places of worship anywhere in the world. Why should we? It makes no sense. Our focus is not ideology. We don't want to actually kill or maim or attack civilians. It was India that keeps on saying every Pakistani is a terrorist. And that's why the 3-year-old, 4-year-old that died also died as a terrorist. It is something that is borrowed from A, Hitler's book, B, from Israel's book. right? So that is one thing. Now regarding escalation, look, Pakistan knows its strengths and its weaknesses also. There's a good chance that we will also die if the war actually becomes something very horrible. But I assure you about one thing, that India, the kind of dominance narrative and especially misogynistic, chest thumping, jingoistic dominance narrative that India wants to build today, try to do it with Operation Sindoor, we will not let it stand, and it will die with them and us perhaps, right? So it is prudent not to talk about war, but to focus on the possibility of de-escalation. And because India is the aggressor, India has not proven or given any evidence to anybody. Their own NIA does not have evidence, right? That's why Pakistan cannot be called aggressor. It was India which in the middle of night attacked our civilian population, and they proudly said that because they are not attacking the military installation, it is non-escalatory, right?
Yeah.
The kids were killed. Now if Pakistan actually chooses any civilian targets, it will be said that, look, they are killing the innocent citizens, we don't want to do that. But what else do we have? We can only hit their installations, right? So naturally, when you keep on actually crossing Pakistan's sovereign space, keep on interfering in it, then of course you are going to get a pushback. So India is a aggressor, the world knows it, and the world, if it wants to actually interfere and wants to build peace in the region, I've heard many good people talk about it, then they will have to send people with serenity and some power to India to, tame them down because they're mad. And they won't be able to control what happens now.
Right. Thank you, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the special transmission. And of course, we talked about the developing situation, and we'll be here to update you as more news comes in. But that's all that we have from this hour. We'll take a break for the headlines. Stay tuned to Pitafi World.